briefly introduce you the society. The European Society of Marine Biotechnology was established in France in April 1995 to promote marine biotechnology in Europe and to promote closer research collaboration between marine biotechnologists. The society is also very interested and involved in effective training and education in the field of marine biotechnology. Membership is open to anyone interested, and information are reported also on the society website. But what about the key activities of the society? We organize this kind of webinars. Every 2 years, we generally organize the conference, meetings and training for young students and early career researchers. The society has also access to the Marine Biotechnology Journal and send a newsletter with the news to the society members. So for more information, please see the website esmb.org or follow us on social media, Instagram and LinkedIn. So I will now leave the word to Dr. Tiago Silva, who will introduce the speaker of today. I just remind to everyone to please mute your microphone, and at the end we will have a question session. So thanks, Tiago.
Hello, good morning to you all. Very happy to be co-hosting this webinar for the European Society for Marine Biotechnology, and I'm really happy to be presenting Helena Vieira, a colleague, a friend, that will tell us her opinion about the blue biotech opportunities for new products and solutions, as she was stating in the title. And I'm very happy to do so because she can give her opinion from with how to say authority, coming from different perspectives or different experiences. As a researcher on marine biotechnology and biomedicine before, an entrepreneur in that area, so running a company on that area, but also from the policy point of view. So different perspectives on how marine biotechnology can be explored. And now on a more general way, if I can say, this as a blue economy perspective, so looking to different aspects beyond the pure biotech approaches. So Helena, is a really high pleasure for us to have you here talking, and please, the room is yours.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank to the ESMB for the invitation and the opportunity to be here today. When I was preparing this presentation, I actually felt a bit, I'm not so more, biotech, deep lab person anymore. More economic and policy perspective. So I will try to dig a bit into the deep tech of the question. So don't crucify me if I say some mistakes, but I will also try to bring you a more open view on how does this fit in the overall panorama also in Europe. So, this talk will be an invitation for you to dive into a story that begins in the depth of the ocean, but it actually ends in our daily life, in our kitchen, what we wear, our pharmacy, skincare shelves, fridges, and everything. So this is the story of how blue biotech actually is transforming, is one of the sectors that is transforming the blue economy in Europe and worldwide, but also, and forgive me for those non-Portuguese, I'm going to tip in a bit of how Portugal is actually contributing to this wave. So I would expect that, well, this was working a while ago. Okay, let me try this way. Okay, I expect that I don't need to convince anybody in this e-room that ocean life is really amazing, that it holds a large majority of biodiversity hotspots and several marine phyla that are so far unknown in terrestrial ecosystems that are only found in marine life, and we still talk about 5 to 10% of marine life to be the only marine life we know. So there's a lot yet to bioprospect and to discover there. From the latest census in 2025, numbers didn't change that much. So the ocean census the last year actually announced the discovery of nearly 900 new marine species. But this took actually almost 15 years to reach to this number. So ocean discovery is expensive. It's done in harsh conditions, and it takes time. So these are things that we need to maintain. When we consult MarineLead, actually, the number 2 days ago was this one, so 44,710. I actually had the number in April, so 1 month ago, the number was 44615, so nearly 100 compounds discovered and reported in this period, which is in line with the numbers that you see for the previous years. It's a bit above 100 compounds per month that are being discovered. So there's a lot of discovery of compounds going on. And where are these compounds coming from? So this is from the latest report of 2024. I have a mixture of figures from the 2024 and the 2025 report. But what we are seeing is that actually bacteria-based marine natural marine compounds are being discovered and resurging after more or less a decade of average. So actually my marine biotech and bacterial discovery experience comes from more than 10 years ago. So to me, it's really nice to see these numbers going up. Also, you can see that sponges and cnidarians have had quite a bit of a surge, but they seem to be declining again. And there's yet a lot of other groups that are not being so much bioprospect. So bottom line, the major groups for marine natural products are microorganisms and invertebrates, and I think we all know this, and this doesn't change. However, AI, which is a recent tool, could actually change not only the speed of this discovery, but also what we are discovering. Some authors have actually analyzed over 13,000 papers in the last 10 years, more or less, to help understand how AI is actually being used to solve these marine natural products bottlenecks. And it is mostly used as an aid in MS-based dereplication of extracts or predicting MS fragmentation patterns. And this is how it's being used mostly. But in the last decade, very few studies have actually used AI for this discovery, more into bioactivity, less into discovery. So specific AI tools are mostly being used, as I mentioned, for dereplication and for 3D protein structures discovery, namely AlphaFold. But there are more out there. Still, when we look at what is this AI doing and what is it being searched for, you can see here in these clouds that most of the AI is focused on bioactivity and structure discovery, so mapping. And as I said, there were only very little papers. Of the 13,000, over 13,000, only 82 actually explicitly refer to using AI, and mostly for bioactivity prediction. So AI is not yet fully exploited for all its potential, and I do believe it's going to be a next wave in blue biotech and marine natural product discovery. Also, this is from the previous study. It's very interesting to see that there is a major trend for isolating less diverse type of compounds and more of the same compounds. So terpene compounds seem to be the ones that keep coming up, and they come mostly from invertebrates, and then we have carbohydrates and alkaloids from microorganisms being very much what we are discovering. So the numbers of marine natural products that are discovered, marine natural compounds, sorry, that are discovered, are rising at a constant rate, but the diversity of those products are actually becoming very, very concentrated into a few numbers, in a few types, sorry. So there is really a funnel happening here, and this also indicates that we are losing a lot of this potential biodiversity. When we also look at where the researchers or the teams that are publishing more on these discoveries, we can see sort of a concentration in Europe, in North America, and in Asia as well. However, when we look at where do these compounds actually come from, we actually see that they come from the other hemisphere, or the tops of the hemisphere. So this really indicates that there is also a capacity gap that needs to be built across the globe, and the distribution and the BBNJ treaty also plays a role here, because then the success of these discoveries are most of the times not reverted back to the original sourced location. What about in Europe? What do we know in Europe related to this? So actually, Europe is a maritime continent, and it holds, according to the latest reports, around 200,000 microbial taxa, and has contributed more than 5,000 marine microbial species. This is data from 2023 to that overall number. So I would say it's a modest contribution still. Marine microbial research in Europe has actually led to over 300 compounds for pharmaceutical pipelines, and the investment in Europe is becoming bigger. So in 2022 it was 150 million, but this is becoming quite large, and as I hope you all are aware by now, Europe has published last year the Biomanufacturing and Biotech Act, and it's actually now revising the Biotech Act 2 and plan, and this is very important to actually bolster not only the role and the output of Europe marine biodiscovery, but also the impact that it might have. So if we only know, less than 10%, can you imagine what we could do if we knew at least 50% of this biodiversity? So that number, 44,000, would probably be multiplied by 5, which will also increase the success rates of output real good compounds and products. And this is where blue biodiversity links with blue biotechnology. So I'm using the definition just to be clear. For me, blue biotechnology is the use of marine organisms and marine services and their parts as a source or part of useful products and services to society. So this is the OECD definition and the one that I'm using here in this presentation. It has several applications. I think this image is always growing because there's always something else that we are discovering, especially in areas like bioplastics and biomaterials. This is opening a lot of new industries to use blue biotech products, but also in some areas that were not so well developed 10 years ago that now are really taking a big jump in textiles, for example, fashion, or which links also to biomaterials, but also in high-end and specialty cosmetics and nutraceuticals, for example. So the value chain, the traditional value chain of discovery, usually it's this one, everybody knows. This was how we did it almost 20 years ago. So we either we sourced the samples, we cultivated, or went to previous collections, we extracted, mostly with organic solvents or water-based solvents, fractionate, try to do as much separation as we could, test them by bioassays to guide isolation, and then went on to structure identification, and from then on we would proceed. So the problem is that there's very limited sourcing and biomass availability. So if we are dependent on those 5 to 10%, then we are very limited on what we are searching. And also the time that it takes from discovery to actually having what we call a validated hit or a validated lead is very, very time consuming and expensive. So there are some new players that are playing around to speed up this marine natural product discovery value chain. So biomass availability is a key issue, and so a lot of the sources now come from different, for example, aquaculture, mariculture, or systems that allow us to actually increase the biomass availability. There's also the chemical synthesis, AME synthesis, based on already discovered products, biobanks, which are increasingly becoming larger and more sophisticated as well. And also biorefinery, so what I call 100% cascade, zero waste cascading, that it's generating a lot of side streams that can also be exploited. Large-scale fermentation is also growing, and coupled, of course, with these biorefineries concepts. But again, I bring this to your attention. AI, I believe, and many believe, that will change the way we discover these products. So today, these new players are allowing us to go and enhance the focus, maybe in microbial groups, but they actually allow us to quickly search genome in silico analysis, detect clusters, and quickly use AI to make structured predictions that allow us, for example, to fast move these pathways. So these are just some of the new methods that are being used for marine natural compound discovery. So the traditional one, which I just mentioned, genome mining, where we kind of extract pools of DNA and then sequence and predict genomic clusters, functional metagenomic discovery, or small molecule in situ resin capture, so using really biofluidics and other technologies that can help us do this discovery. But in the end, all of these products need to really face the regulated and known value chains to be able to reach to the market. Because one of the things that I think it's still valid when I was doing this many years ago, but it's still valid today, is that most of the research community is very focused on, pure science, pure discovery. That's very valid: biodiversity classification, discovery, mapping, everything. Those that are going a bit further in doing bioprospecting and actually discovering compounds are going one step further. But what happens here in the later stages of the value chain actually must be taken into account when we are starting in the lab, because depending on the potential applications, depending on the potential formulations, depending on the potential costs that we need to meet, the way we isolate and the way we select also has a role that needs to be considered. And we can discuss this more if you want in the questions and answers. And now I can see that my next slide has a mistake, but it's okay. So when we look at the different countries and what are they focusing on in this discovery. Again, we can see that most of them are doing marine natural compounds bioactivity or synthesis testing. You can see the highest bars here, but there's a growing number of countries that are focusing on these new technologies like genomics, biosynthesis, metabolomics, and all of these. If you look at the top of this graphic, you see China, USA, Japan, South Korea, and India are playing a big role here. Here in Europe, then Germany comes at the top. And I'm sorry for the non-Portuguese, but I always like to point out this is where Portugal actually is, despite the fact that being one of the biggest maritime countries in the world. So we've done a lot of work in this field throughout what I mean we is my teams, my companies, my work. There's quite a few documents that are sort of like Bibles today, especially this one in the book. But also the contribution of the knowledge that I still gather has been incorporated into the World Ocean Assessment of the United Nations, now in the third version that it's very soon to be published. But also my current work today is actually trying to link how this marine biodiversity and marine potential actually links to market and value chains, actually links to what is innovations in policy frameworks and how they influence these pathways. So it's been really fun. I really like doing this job because it's almost like a translation from the lab to the people that decide and that actually create some value. So, as you know, biotech has a real world impact. It's called the invisible revolution, but blue biotech is becoming bigger and bigger in this sector because of the potential biodiversity and chemodiversity that it can contribute to this sector. So let's start by a bit, what did you have for breakfast today? What was your last meal that you have today? Do you think there was any ocean related power there in that food? Did you eat a yogurt? Did you eat something, are you doing intermittent fasting and your last meal was your dinner? So in many of these products, people actually don't see exactly where blue biotech is, but it is in most of these products, not only because in these cases that I'm showing you, it has algae based products or aquaculture biotech derived final products as well. When we think of breakfast, maybe many of us actually have eaten a yogurt or a food supplement that can be supplemented, for example, with marine collagen. This is already very well integrated into many different products. Did you put your creams this morning or last night? Most of the skincare today actually has marine-based compounds. Most of them still algae, general extracts, but many high-end cosmetic brands are actually buying a lot of what we call specialty ingredients, so very well-defined compounds, unique compounds isolated from different marine species that have a confirmed bioactivity that have been tested in clinical trials. And I've been very active also in this market, developing compounds here. Most of these compounds have a very high-end value. So when we talk about, biomass for food or feed, we are talking at values between dozens and maximum hundreds of euros per kilo. When we talk at the high-end cosmetics, we are very close to pharmaceutical values. We are talking about several thousands of euros per gram, not per kilo. So this is quite a high-end market that it's very interesting to explore as well. And most of all, the consumer trends are also shifting. So they don't want to trade off efficacy and sustainability. So it has to be very effective, but I don't care where it comes from. Actually not. They really want science-driven, confirmed efficacy, but also very consciously created formulas. And this is quite interesting also to exploit from a blue biotech perspective. What are we wearing today? I don't think many of us are aware by now that how much blue biotech fibers coming from plastic or even from algae are solutions of plastic recycling and other carbohydrates recycling by marine bacteria and marine organisms that are being incorporated into fashion or houseware or other products, even small underwear that we don't know but actually can be fully made of or at least a very high percentage of fibers coming from marine origin. And the same applies to households. Today we have several examples of products that we use every day that contain bioactives or actually the full organism in some cases, like for example Arctic derived enzymes for detergents that wash at lower values, and of course the most well studied pipeline, which is the pharmaceutical pipeline. We have around 20 marine-derived drugs approved for clinical usage. Many more are in the clinical pipeline, and they tackle a variety of diseases, and most of these actually comes from the uniqueness of the habitats where these organisms come from and the adaptation mechanisms that they had to develop. But other areas of usage, bioremediation is becoming, and I think in the current world scenario, this is going to be even more important. Or the futuristic, I really like to show this slide many times because this is a Philips experiment of bioluminescence lamps that it's still being tested. But very importantly, discovery takes time, as I mentioned before, and a lot of money. And for example, of the more than 43,000, which is now 44,000, less than 100 are on the market today. And this shows a very high failure rate during the pipeline development, but also the enormous cost that it's linked here. So, for example, when a biotech R&D unit or under a university or under a company is focused on bioprospecting and biotech development, nearly half of the budget is spent on the first stages of the pipeline, so exploitation and collection and maintenance. The market itself is projected to grow at a nearly double-digit rate, which is very interesting for investors, which links me to the next couple of slides. So I'm shifting here for investors and market opportunities. So this last report, this is the 2026 Blue Invest report. And this report actually shows that the number of deals in now I'm talking about blue economy is rising, and you can see blue biotech here. There were 6% of the total deals in blue economy in the last years. And who is leading these deals is mostly France, Germany, a bit in the Netherlands, and then many other countries. Also very interesting is to see what is the amount of these deals. So these deals are actually raising quite a bit in amount, but they fell off in 2023. I don't know if you remember what happened in 2022, but that's also linked to this money is being diverted, which is a problem for these deep tech areas because money now is being diverted to other seen as more relevant areas. And if you look at the country profiles of attractiveness to invest in blue biotech and in blue economy, you see that Norway and UK are still seen as the biggest, more attractive country, not only because they have a lot of players, but also because the market is more friendly for investment. But I like to point Southern Europe as also a great example and growing example of attractiveness to investor. I leave here this table. I put it here because it has the names of several dedicated investors that I think might be useful for some of the people here. And also, finally, I want you to see how is the future prospected trend of blue biotech investments. You can see that it's in the forefront runners of increasing number of deals over the years, and in the future it is predicted to actually raise a lot the number of investments again from 2025 onwards. This report, to which I also participated and wrote a significant part, also has also shows a summary of the key innovations and technologies that not only are being more developed in Europe, but also are being sought after by investors. And you can see that there are a lot of marine related, all of them are marine related, and there's explanation on what is the value proposition and some examples of companies and startups and projects that are already doing this. So I think this is very useful information, and I leave it here for you. One of the things that we keep discussing, and I think we are doing this quite well actually, to be honest, is that most of the great successes actually come from collaborations between academia and industry. And also over 75% of the patents actually originate from these collaborations. And if you look at the Cordis and the marine related projects that are over there, over more than 500 are actually linking science with industry in Europe, focusing translating these towards the market. So what about Portugal? For those of you that don't know, this is the new world map. We don't just look at land size, we look at ocean size, and I really like to put, everybody thinks that Portugal is just this rectangular with a very great weather and by the ocean, but actually this is Portugal. And Portugal ocean territory is 18 times its land mass, or as I like to say it, Portugal is 3% land and 97% water. We have quite a big coastline, one of the largest economic zones in Europe. We cover actually 48% of the total EU marine waters of the continent. And if we get approved, we will have one of the largest EU extended continental shelf, and I think the 4th in the world. So it's quite a huge domain in marine potential. We also love fish. I checked these numbers again this morning, and we are between 2nd and 3rd in the last years. Also, I'm speaking more about blue economy here. Most of the world traffic passes by Portuguese waters. We are the 2nd EU country with highest ocean science investment per GDP. An increasing number of SMEs and blue companies dedicated to these emergent sectors like blue biotech. We finally have dedicated blue or ocean VCs and investors that know the science, that understand the market and know how long it takes and all the hurdles. We have dedicated ideation and acceleration programs trying to bolster the whole ecosystem, thanks to a lot of organizations like Blue Bio Alliance, Fórum Oceano, Fundação Oceano Azul, Gulbenkian Foundation, and many others. And even the universities play a key role in these programs. And the first hubs of the Blue Hub ecosystem of infrastructures are coming out soon, and this is a pleasure to see this coming to reality. These are hubs and infrastructures that can be shared and used by all of you to actually pilot, demo, and upscale your technologies in a variety of sectors. In terms of value to Portugal, blue economy is the third highest economic sector in Portugal, and despite diminishing a bit its impact in the 2022, which is the last one, report, it is still quite significant, and where the growth is actually way above the national growth. So in Portugal, we are Atlantic, we have deep shelf, extreme and unique habitats. Some of the world biodiversity hotspots are here around the Azores and some around the Madeira and southern waters. There's a lot of know-how and biobanks for marine biotech. We actually are quite strong in microorganisms and invertebrate and also algae-related discovery. We are actually the top country in EU for marine science research outputs. This is the 2020 latest report, which came out in 2021. We have a lot of marine researchers per capita and a great potential for biodiscovery and biotech development. Some examples of our companies, Schizo or Zori, which are transforming ocean plastic into fibers for shoes. A4F, which is one of the biggest players in terms of... Sorry, somebody has the mic on. And sorry, I'm listening an echo.
Sorry, I will try to understand who is, and I will...
Okay, I think it's over now. I'm almost finishing, just 3 more slides. So A4F is actually one of the largest companies we have. It's an aggregate of companies already. They deal mostly with microalgae, biorefinery, and scale-up processes. But we have many others, and we actually are now doing something which is amazing in the last 5 years, which is penetrating non-typical blue sectors with blue based solutions like coffee industry or textile industries. In Portugal is very strong in textile industry for many years, and this is very positive also to see it coming. So overall, I think Europe is a real blue player, but actually it could be much bigger than what it is today if we compare Europe size, contributions and outputs in relation to the rest of the world. There's a lot of space still to be developed here. And this is just an overview. I want to thank you again for listening to me, and I'm open to some more particular discussions. So thank you.
Thank you so much for this interesting and inspiring talk. So I will leave the word to people having questions. Is there anyone that has a question, a curiosity?
The first one is always the hardest. Don't be shy. Most likely I don't know how to answer, but I will do my best.
I have a curiosity related to the slide you showed related to the Blue Hub. Is it like an infrastructure to which people can have access?
So the Blue Hubs are still under... So yes, the Blue Hub was a program that was launched with the Resilient Plan in 2021, when actually I was in the Ministry of the Sea. So I'm quite responsible for that launch with my colleagues at the Ministry. And this is a group of 8 hubs distributed across the continent, Portugal. They are all located in port or near water locations, and they go from north to south. And they are also, how do I say this? They are also focusing in different aspects of the blue economy value chain. And so the first, I think one of the first, so I can talk a bit about a few. We have in Porto area one that is very related to robotics and direct marine testing of solutions, and also another one that it's very linked to the biobanks, to marine biotech, to biodiscovery, to solutions. In Aveiro, we have one that it's being built and hopefully will be delivered in time by the end of the year, that it's being built for pilot and demo scale production of aquaculture, including algae and non-algae species, but it has all the labs associated to it to improve and to test even feed and food and things like that. I think in Peniche, you have space for companies. You have basic biotech and bio refinery solutions there. So, and you have more around the country. And the idea, yes, is that these are shared infrastructures that people can use, of course, for a fee, but that tried to respond to this need that we have in Europe, that we don't have really easily access to do pilot scaling and demo scaling before we go to the large producers for commercial producers. Some of these hubs actually also have space for final commercial level installations as well. But yes, that's the idea of this.
Thank you so much. It's very, very interesting. There is a question first by Marina Puzzolini. You can switch on the microphone and ask directly. And then I saw a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Helena. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. You give us an overview of the biotechnology and the focus in Europe in particular. It's very interesting. Just a consideration, or I would to know your opinion regarding the duration of the research activity in the marine biotechnology, because I have seen some review in which the results that the main article in marine biotechnology are in the description, the description of the bioactivity, but less article regarding the mechanism of the bioactivity. So in my opinion, the researcher, the scientists in marine biotechnology prefer to describe some activity in the marine organism and then change and move it in another organism instead to deep inside. Obviously depend of the funding, but maybe could be a problem and reduce the opportunity to understand the real mechanisms of some compound, and we have only a big description but not a real product. I don't know.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And some of my latest works with my team, some also involving actually Tiago, are actually looking at that, because I had the gut feeling that you have, but I wanted to actually have scientific evidence of what I'm saying. And we did that, for example, for marine collagens and chitosans and all these different and we are doing for other things, but actually this is just an example of a paper. I think I put it in one of the slides there as well, where we actually went to compare, what is being published, what is coming out there versus what is being patented in the same field for the same molecules and what it's being developed in the market. And there's a huge mismatch. So as you say, there are a lot of papers describing, oh, I just found another form of collagen, I just found another form of chitosan from this source or from that source. So these are lots of papers from the academia. Most of these papers are purely academic papers. Not many have industrial collaboration at this stage. But when you look at the patent portfolio of marine products, then you see a much less extent of patents. First, because it costs to make a patent, but also because going from this discovery of this compound or this bioactivity in an assay, in an in vitro assay in the lab, to actually having a proven, as you say, described bioactivity, knowing exactly what is the target, knowing exactly what's the, how this takes a long time. And also I feel there's this gap. There's always been this gap, I think, for the last 15 years, which is a lot of research funds this original component, or funded. I think now in Horizon it's a bit different. Funded a lot of biodiscovery, of bioprospecting, and then you have the expectations that company fund the rest of the development. But that's not what it's happening, because you see there's 44,000 compounds, and the number is always growing every month by 100. And so companies also need to have more qualified leads and bioactives and compounds to be able to absorb these. So I do believe that now the funding in Horizon program, and I hope in FP10 program as well, it's much more into this intermediate TRL. So going from, from where you are seeing these papers actually to the next level. And at this stage, it's very good that we start doing it already with some potential end users and some potential companies that will develop this. But I totally agree with you, and that's a problem, because but we all have different roles. Academia has the role of generating knowledge and generating science data. But I also believe that academia has a role to actually feed the industry in a more adequate mode than what we have been doing. But I think this is changing. I've seen quite a bit of a change in the last 5 years in certain areas. So the more studied compounds, I don't see a big change. But for really novel compounds with high potency, I think it's very interesting. Yeah, there's some questions in the chat. Do you want me to answer, Chiara, as well?
Yeah, please. Thank you so much.
Okay. So there's a question about, I would like to know more about the application of blue biotech in the cafe industry. Yes, so I think it's Tammy. Tammy, this application has been developed under, again, the Resilience and Recovery Plan, and also some internal projects of Delta, which is the major cafe brand in Portugal, where they are trying to develop solutions to substitute the capsules material by biodegradable materials. And some of these solutions that they've tested and that they are aiming to develop are derived from marine organisms and biotech. Okay. Also, there's a question which I don't know if I know how to answer, from João A, which is if I have any knowledge regarding which molecules we should focus our research on. Is there any specific kind of marine bioderived molecules that represent the greatest potential? It depends. Again, this is a typical policy answer, which is it depends. Because it really depends on the markets you are aiming. For example, if you're talking about nutraceuticals, food, like high-end sports food materials, feed, or even high-end cosmetics, I would say that mostly the proteins and the combination of carbohydrates, different carbohydrates with proteins, are really being sought for because of their also properties in terms of formulation. So again, see, you have to start with the end in mind. This is what I'm always trying to say. These are very good, but also specific metabolites that have specific actions, very rare, are very interesting for the high-end markets, for pharma and for cosmetics. When you're talking about biomaterials and other types, I think it's more the process and the final product performance that it's really relevant. So it really depends on what you are looking for. There's another question. There's too many questions in the chat. The bio-based field is fascinating. But what about the utilization of byproducts to recreate these products? What are the broader implications in terms of sustainability? Well, we have two problems in Michel. This is Michel Magrier. In Europe, we have a problem with the byproducts transformation, which is regulations for example, food applications that actually forbids a lot of the innovation space to be tackled. But for non-food applications, this has been extremely exploited, and I think it's very successfully exploited. I'm part of the CBE JU scientific committee, and we have seen there many projects and also many experts that I work with developing great solutions from these cascading, so from this byproduct concept that are actually entering directly as drop-ins in existing value chains and existing markets, but that are also opening other new markets. So in terms of sustainability, as you mentioned, circular economy, I think this is quite good. Industrial scalability, again, depends on the process itself. So this is, CBE has funded a lot of biorefineries up to TRL 9. This is quite high. We have quite a few already in Europe that are doing this successfully. So yes. Elizabeth from Blue Bio Alliance, what is your perspective on how Europe currently views the blue bioeconomy and the role of startups in this ecosystem? What types of support and incentives are coming to encourage founders to create and grow startups? Elizabeth, I'm going to give you a very provocative answer, which is academic careers are too comfortable, and therefore you don't have that many biotech entrepreneurs. So one of the ways to do that is to have less comfortable other choices. But that's not up to you as Blue Bio Alliance to do that. Also, I think a lot has changed. You know, I've been a professor for many years, and I remember actually when I went to do my PhD in London, I've never heard in my training the word innovation and entrepreneurship, but that I'm old, so that was a lot of years ago, 26 years ago. But today, when I came back and around 2008, this was all becoming very common in more southern countries like Portugal. I actually did a lot of this in the University of Lisbon and, as a professor for many years there. And so I think mentalities are shifting. It's also a question of creating the opportunities for them to come out and to be seen and to be known by investors and by other potential bigger companies that can actually work with them. And I think Europe, with the Horizon programs, is actually doing a lot of good contributions to this, to helping scale up these companies. And then we have one from Nova. Eureka, what competencies should young marine biotechnologies develop to remain relevant in AI-driven landscape? Well, that's a great question. I'm not an AI expert at all. I use it. I try to use it a lot now. I try to learn, but I think courses actually need to shift to remember the time of bioinformatics many years ago when we started using bioinformatics and people didn't know how to do that. So we had to train a lot of bioinformatics, and we actually have courses for bioinformaticians, masters and things like that. I think we have to do the same. These courses need to be updated for AI. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that Renata had a question. I don't know if you still want to ask the question.
Yes. Thank you very much, Helena, for your talk. It was very inspiring and many input also for us. The question is very simple. I was wondering if you think that there are some constraints or gaps in terms of law or regulation in the use of marine resources in the field of blue biotechnology.
Yes, I think there are constraints. For example, one of the things I'm battling along in my European Commission corridors is the invasive species limitations that I think are limiting a lot the innovation potential in Europe, and they are becoming more and more common in European waters as well. These limitations actually differ from country to country, which is also makes it very complex for a company to establish itself and to be really, at least European global, which is the minimum that we require these days. That's one, the invasive species. A lot of the algae areas, I think, also are very it's cumbersome to develop algae products based on novel algae that are not in the list of approved algae, especially for food and related. Always the food is very tricky. The food and market and the feed markets are tricky. And that's why, for example, this is my personal choice. I've always ran away from those markets because they are so complex, almost as a pharmaceutical market complexity, but actually with much lower value than the higher end markets, which is bad because we need new sources of food and new sources of, but it is a problem in Europe today. And the waste, so what we call waste, what is called waste in many European directives is actually byproducts in the current bioeconomy model that we are following in Europe. So this needs to shift, and policy unfortunately takes a lot longer to readjust than innovation does. So yeah, basically that's my view here. And this hinders biotech innovation, of course. And that's why China and USA are always in front of us, even with Trump.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Oops,
thank you
this
very
is going to
much.
be in the air.
So there is another question by John Teodoro. So please.
Congratulations for your quite interesting presentation. I'm working in Fisheries and Aquaculture Department of University of Patras in Greece, and I would like to ask you to have more, some details about aquaculture contribution in biotechnology sector. We scale up, maybe it's biotechnology sector that pass the stages that you mentioned. But again, we have a definition problem if we are, let's say, zootechnical approach or we are biotechnology approach. We think that we are biotechnology industry, since we use most of the criteria to meet biotechnology, but I would like to have more, your opinion as more experienced, what is confirmed in terms of biotechnology application in aquaculture.
Okay, thank you, John, for your question. Can I ask you to mute your mic, please? Yes. So thank you. I'm not an expert in aquaculture, but I actually have quite a few colleagues that are around me on a daily basis that are experts. And I wanted to comment this on two different ways. One is this definition of where do I fit in terms of the blue economy. This is actually a known problem. I've been working a lot with, for example, blue economy accounting and natural capital accounting, the official statistics that we have for blue economy and all of these things. And this is a problem because the NAS codes, which is where you define what is your activity, are not prepared for these new emergent sectors. So one way that we believe that Europe could lead this is that you have a main NAS code, which it would be, if you were a company, would be aquaculture, but then your secondary immediately NAS code is in biotech development. So this means that you can be accounted in different sectors of the blue economy. So that's one thing. It's more of an administrative, commercial perspective. In terms of biotech in aquaculture, the more I know about aquaculture, the more I see how biotech is playing a key role in aquaculture. From developing health-related solutions for like vaccines and compounds that not only feed but also heal from inside the aquacultured organisms, but also into experimenting with new cultivated organisms, a lot, of course, linked to algae, but this integrated multi-trophic aquaculture where you have several organisms being cultivated, and all these processes and how manipulating one or the other can actually help the feed that it's being fed. The feed world is changing dramatically also, and so there's a lot of biotech in these aspects that I think are quite relevant. And I believe AI and Industry 5.0 is really going to hit on aquaculture, I hope sooner than later, because a lot of this has been is under development now and can actually improve the efficacy and the productivity of the aquaculture industry today in Europe, which is very small compared to the rest of the world.
Thank you.
Okay, so
thank you then. Yeah,
I think you replied to all the questions.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would like to thank you, really thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure. I can share the PDF of my presentation with you.
Okay,
for
so
you to
if
share
anyone
it
wants to, it can write me, and I will write my mail in the chat in order that.
I already sent my email, so they can also send messages to me, and we can share the presentation. Thank you very much, Helena, for this very nice presentation.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Giovanna.
much,
Good
Helena.
luck with the new mandate, Tiago. It's always a pleasure of me. So thank you, everybody, and I hope it was interesting for all of you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Chiara, I will stay for a while because I'm saying I'm looking at the chat and there are few people sending the email. Yes,
Yeah,
so I
I'm
will
trying
stay.
to. Are you copying them, or I will do it? I'm copying the email in the chat in order that I suppose they would like the presentation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
I will copy them.
Thank you, Tiago, for organizing with Helena this very interesting webinar. Thanks to all that are still connected to be present for this.
Copied.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I copied these two emails, and if anyone else wants a presentation, just write us, and we will be happy to help.
Yes, because I didn't see on Eventbrite the possibility to download also the email address. This is a limitation actually, because the system has the possibility to send email, but the organizer couldn't see the emails. This is a problem, so this is why it's important for them to ask for some follow-up. Okay, thank you again. It was nice.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.